Hi there, this is Sheena Rowlands and today I'm sharing with you my latest layout for the cut file crew. This is the cut file we're going to use this month and it's by Paige Evans and it's a freebie. That's what we do. Every month we design with a free cut file, which means that you too could use the same one. So I've decided to actually only cut 2/3 of it rather than the whole wreath, and I'm not going to use the words in the centre either. So I've printed 4 photographs at the moment, and I brought in the Vicki Boutin Warm Wishes range, which was from Christmas 21, I believe, or winter 21. And as you can see, I've got quite a lot of it left, so I decided it was a good choice for me to use. So I'm just going through the 6x8 paper pad and picking some ones I want to use. So I recut the cut file with the lights being solid so that I could actually trim them off to back the hollow ones in the cut file I'd already got, if that makes sense, because I'm actually going to make them coloured. So I'm on a campaign this year to use up old stash or lose it or give it away, and I decided I was going to use something I hadn't used for quite some time. So I had a dig around and I found a bag full of different glitters. So I picked out some that seemed to coordinate quite well with the Vicki Boutin Warm Wishes range, and also with the photographs. So I've got them there, and unfortunately I'm slightly off camera here, but I'm actually adding double-sided tape to all the solid lights because I'm actually going to then add some glitter. So I've peeled the back off one side of the tape, obviously after I've stuck it down, and now I'm going ahead and adding glitter to the sticky side. So I'm trying to contain the mess. I'm not a very messy mixed media person. So, and I know you possibly don't think that glitter is mixed media, that's fine too, but it certainly does make a mess. So I'm looking at adding some random red ones. I think I do 4 or 5 of this colour first. So I'm literally just dipping them in the glitter that I've got on the spare paper there. Very easy to do, and I go in and do it in lots of other colours. I try and be a bit random with the selection. I don't put 2 of the same colour together, I must admit, but actually I try and just to not think about it too much. So I'm just going to use a little bit of gold card just to cover the connection for the lights, and on top of that then I will stick the glittered light, and I'm only sticking it by that base because I don't want it to be completely stuck down. I like there to be a little bit of lift between the cut file and the shape, so it can actually just hover above it a little and just add that little bit more dimension. So I'm just going to work my way around, sticking these down just by the underneath the gold bit, just as I said. So when I've finished that, I get it laid out on the cardstock. I've added some foam pads behind some of them, but I've not actually stuck it down to the white yet. So I'm now just making sure my photographs sit the way that I would like them to be, and I quite like the way that the colour of the lights look. So I'm just marking roughly where it goes on the white cardstock because I'm going to actually add some more mixed media behind it. So these are a couple of green oxides, so I tend to touch the scrap paper just to make sure I don't put any heavy ink on the cardstock. And I'm trying to just go in like the wreath shape so I can bring in the cut file like I am now, just to actually see where I'm adding the ink, just to make sure I'm doing it in the right place. So just using one of these brushes I bought from Amazon in a set, easy to use, easy to clean, and I just like the delicate faintness that they do with the ink. They're really good. I did have some of the Tim Holtz, with the foam on the end, but they tended to leave circular marks. So I'm impressed with the brushes and I'm definitely using them more. So this is a stencil from the same Warm Wishes range, and obviously it's like bough or conifer, and I'm going to come in over the top of the green ink that I've done and just add a few branches just to give the impression when we put the lights back on that it's actually on a wreath, or that sort of idea. So I don't want to use all of it, so I'm being quite specific about the few that I am going to use, and I'm going to use a couple more shades of green just to add them in. So I quite often use a piece of cardstock that was in the packaging just to block off some of the others, so I don't, with the brush, spill into some of the others. But actually, the more I do, the more confident I get, and I use the card less and less as I work my way around. because what I need to remember here, and which I quite often forget when I do mixed media, is I'm about to cover all of this back over again. And I think sometimes we forget, and sometimes annoyingly I cover too much of it afterwards. But I'm already liking the way this is looking when I lifted the cut file back on there, and that gives me more confidence to go in and add a few more of these bristly bits with the different shades of green over the original circle. And what we have to actually realise is this is just a piece of cardstock. So if I do completely mess this up, guess what? I do have another piece of white cardstock, and I bet you do too. So it doesn't really matter. Sometimes we get a little bit precious, and sometimes that can stifle your creativity a little bit. So I'm thinking, actually, just go for it, girl, and then we can always repeat it if we need to. In fact, the cardstock's not the issue for me. Time is usually the issue for me. Finding the time with work and family, etc., to be able to get some crafting in, or some quality crafting time. I don't know about you, but I find it very difficult to do things in small snippets of time. I like to actually settle down, relax, and enjoy the process. So, yeah, don't always get enough time to do that, but enough of me moaning. So that is the cut file back over the top of the wreath. I'm now seeing if there's any gaps I might need to fill in, and there's a couple. But yeah, really like the way that's looking. Still want to come in with the photographs, so I'm going to bring these back in and get them into position, and give me an idea of what space to fill. One of those photos isn't sitting well with me, but I'll come back to that in just a moment. So I'm going to bring in more of the range, have a look at all the accessories and embellishments and puffy words, and I'm going to do two areas. I'm going to do some bits and pieces around the photographs, and I'm going to have another set at the top. And I'm just looking at what words would go really well. I like that together. It does move position, but it does get used in the end. So the photographs, where you watch my hands move, were taken at the light trail at Kew Gardens in London this year. Now, you can't really tell from the photographs, but the weather was torrential, and I didn't realise how far it was from where I live in the Midlands. So it was a bit of a scary car drive there. It took nearly 3 hours. But unfortunately, the tickets for Kew were from pre-COVID, so they were a couple of years old. So we really wanted to use them, and we were going as a family. So we weren't keen to cancel at such short notice just because the weather was rubbish. I mean, we knew it was going to be an outdoor thing with the lights. So basically, we just dressed for it. You can't see there, but there was lots of big brollies as well, because it was quite a long trail, actually. We were there a couple of hours, and we stopped for a mulled wine and all the things that you should do over Christmas. It was lovely. But goodness me, the weather. Luckily, it dried up a little for the drive home, because I don't like that sort of driving. Luckily, I wasn't the driver, but I still didn't like being a passenger. But so I'm cutting into this paper, as you can see, just to bring in some extra colour. Wanted to bring in some extra red, so it's behind a couple of the photos. The together puffy word is now got to the top, which I prefer, and it says bright lights I've got down at the bottom. So I'm just looking at all the other bits. As you can see, there's quite a lot I haven't actually used. So I do want to get a bit more on if I could. I'd like maybe some word phrases or some little embellishment. So I'm having a look. There's a couple of words here on the chipboard sheet that might be good. I've left the backing on so I can move them around. One of them I think says photo opportunity. The other one says this makes me happy. They both make the cut. Not necessarily in the position they're in at the moment, but they do stay, because both sentiments are absolutely perfect. So what I will go back to is this is a layout for the Cut File crew. So the Cut File crew are a group of ladies that are on Instagram, and once a month, usually on the last Sunday of the month, we pick a cut file. We take it in turns. So this was my choice. In fact, this Paige Taylor Evans one was my choice, and we pick a cut file that we all design with. Now, we all are crafters. We're not necessarily all scrapbookers. So it is really worth, when you see it on Instagram, I will have listed all the other people taking part. It's really worth hopping around, having a look. They don't all do videos, so mine's a little bit rogue in that sense, but you will find all the creativity on Instagram. And loads of, they're from all over Europe, so there's loads of different styles, and it's really good to see particularly if you like using cut files but you feel that you've got a bit of a block, to see what other people make with them. There's no reason why you can't be inspired by other people. That's all part of this sort of community, and that's what we aim to do as the Cut File crew. So you can always find, the cut files are free, we never use anything you have to buy. It's worth having a look back. So if you look at the hashtags as well, you'll be able to see some of the previous ones that we've made. So my hands are still moving and I'm adding to the wreath a little bit. I've found some puffy stars and I think they work really well. They add a little bit of gold without adding too much more, because obviously the glitter, and in fact it's even brighter in real life, I think, is actually, obviously quite shiny and does take your attention. You may also notice the photo on the far left has changed. It was blue, shades of blue, but I actually changed it to one that was more pinks and purples and reds. All from obviously the light trail, but I just felt it's coordinated better. Even though I've got some bluey glitter on the wreath, I was quite happy to change the photograph. So I'm now sticking things down, which, as you probably know if you've watched me before, takes me quite some time to actually commit. And I'm adding some foam to the back of these puffy stickers, these stars, just to lift them up, because obviously the lights on the cut file, they're already raised, the photos are already raised, so just wanted to bring them up a bit. So I'm cutting up some foam pads, which always makes a bit of a mess on my desk, just so that I can get them in position. I do go back and add foam on the back of most of the lights, and just to keep them in position once it's in the album. But I was really impressed with the double-sided tape I'd used on the actual lights themselves. So far it hasn't shed any glitter, because that was, I suppose once it's in a pocket it won't matter so much, but for when I was photographing it and everything, no problem at all. So I may be using glitter again, so watch this space. So final bits and pieces now, just getting some of these stars stuck down, and then I'm going to, I think, call it a day. I will bring in some gold paints at the last minute and just add a few splatters on the background. They're very small, but when up close it does break it up. And that's it done. So thank you so much for watching. That's the final layout. Do check out the cut file. Do check out the cut file crew. If you haven't already, subscribe to my channel, give this layout a like, and I hope to see you here very soon. Bye for now.